video, I'm going to show you my twist on chunky highlights, and this technique is really great if you want to create a bold face frame and lots of high contrast. And I did finish her off with some soft, subtle, chunky highlights in the back, and I'm so excited to share this technique with you. Now, if you're new here, my name is Mirella Manelli. I'm a hair educator who loves helping hairstylists simplify their skills in business. And before we move on, please hit that subscribe button, make sure you share this video with a friend, and let's get right into it. So chunky highlights are just that. They're chunky. They're going to give you bold lines of demarcation, really thick pieces throughout, lots of high contrast. So this is perfect for anybody who's looking for that edgy look. Now, as far as the canvas that you can work on, this looks great on anything from really natural all the way to vibrant shades. Now, chunky highlights can be done with a chunky weave, but they can also be done with slices, which I'm going to show you today, especially on this mohawk section, because it really does accentuate that face frame area for anybody who's looking for that edgy look. Now, these highlights were really popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, and they've made a huge resurgence. So I'm so excited to share this technique with you today. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So to get started on our sectioning, we're going to use the arch of our eyebrow as a guide, and we're just going to come straight back. This is going to be your typical or standard mohawk sectioning. So you can see I just took that horizontal section along the side and then also right along the back, which is above that apex. And then again, just creating that rectangular shape. So this is a very standard sectioning, which most of us learned in beauty school. Now, what's going to matter most is the direction that we put our highlights in. And this is why we're going to go in with a vertical sectioning for this entire mohawk area. So for this project, I'm going to be using the Redken Flash Lift. Now, this lightener is going to give you up to 8 levels of lift. I do think this is like a good general lightener and a power lifter at that, but again, something that's going to give you up to 8 levels of lift, so it's not super strong. And I'm going to go ahead and mix this up at a 1:2 mixing ratio. Now, if you want to learn more about bleach lighteners and how they work, make sure you check out my other videos regarding all of the best bleach lighteners in Salon Centric. Now, viscosity is really important to me. Anytime you're doing a look, especially like a chunky highlight, you want to make sure that you have a thick enough lightener so you get the best precision possible, because we are going to be adding in slices that are going to be right at the scalp. Now, to create a chunky highlight, you definitely can go in chunky, but that's just going to make it a little too stripey as she pulls her hair back. So what we're going to be doing is adding in slices. Now, depending on how thick of a chunk you want to create, you're going to put more of those back-to-back slices right behind the other. So for this look, to get it started, I just want to make sure I'm isolating out her hairline. Everybody's hairline's different though, so make sure that you identify that before you even get started. So for example, if they have a widow's peak, you're going to want to outline that first before going in with these slices. Now, all of my slices are pretty thin. You want to make sure that you're going to get really great saturation with your lightener. And I'm going to focus my lightener just a little bit off, like 1/2 inch or so away from that root area. And I'm actually going to move that lightener up myself before I close this up. But my entire goal right now is just to make sure that I get the best saturation on each of these pieces. And the way that I do that is by applying my lightener and then opening up that hair. Now that I have that done, I'm just going to get a little bit of lightener and I'm going to slowly start to move it up. And once I get to that foil line, this is where I'm going to turn my brush sideways and just guide that bleach right to that scalp area. I don't want to make it puddle whatsoever. I just want to barely kind of glaze it, because the reality is a powerlifting bleach lightener, they all expand. So you want to leave a little bit of room for that, and that's how you're going to avoid that bleeding. Now, once that is applied, I'm actually going to tri-fold this, and this is more for comfort level for my client, so that foil isn't just hanging in her face while she's, sitting at the chair processing. So now I got that foil in there, and from here I'm just going to do another small slice. Now, typically I add in 2 to 4 back-to-back slices. Again, depends on how thick of a chunk that you're really wanting out of this look. So I'm going to pull my hair all the way up, insert my foil, and bring that right on down. Now the beauty of doing the slices right at that front hairline is, to be completely honest, you don't have to worry so much about bleeding, just because the foil that's right behind it is also blonde and we're lightening that. So that is kind of a little forgiving when you think about it, but you do want to put this into practice, because if you're going to put chunks towards the back, which we're going to do for this mannequin, you do want to have pretty nice precision with your application. And this is why your mixing ratio and the viscosity that you have your bleach in is so important. Now the beauty of doing a mannequin though, she isn't producing any heat, so you do want to keep that in mind when you're doing a real person versus doing a mannequin. You will get a lot more lift and a lot more swelling because of that heat kind of exuding off of that client's head. So I'm going to do a third slice right here. Little hot tip is how you apply your bleach lightener is exactly how it's going to process. So you can kind of see as I'm applying this, we got some puddling here and some less saturation here. That's exactly how it will look and process if I left it that way. So this is even more reason why we need to spend that time opening up that hair and making sure we got that saturation we need. Now, of course, I can go in with another slice if I want it extra bold. So again, just keep in mind if you're going to be doing these bold type of chunky highlights and that face frame, that's how wide of a placement that we're creating by how far back we go with this. So when she parts her hair on the side or in the middle, you'll see that width coming this way. This is why this is a vertical placement. So now the next step is determining how wide of a section you want to create for that contrast, how much brown or background you want to create. So from here, this is why I have her positioned sideways. Just looking at this, I know that I want at least a 2 finger of a width. That's just my preference. It's going to be completely up to you how wide of a section you're going to create. So I'm going to just go ahead and stand right in front of my person, and I'm going to determine how far back we're going to go. So I'm going to, like I said, go 2 fingers deep and just make a clean section. And now this is my depth that I've created. So this is how wide of a section that I'm creating. You can almost visualize how chunky of a weave and contrast we're going to be creating. Now that I have determined how much depth I want to create and separation between these chunks, here's where I'll be able to start out with my new chunky highlights. So first I'm going to go ahead and clip these away so that way I know that that's just not going to touch or disrupt what I'm doing right here. And I'm just going to take, like I mentioned, a nice clean slice. This is how you're going to get that chunky look when she parts her hair. And keep in mind, this is vertical placement. A lot of people tend to confuse this placement by being horizontal, and this is not horizontal. Horizontal is going to give you a lot of softness, and verticals are going to give you that bold contrast. And that's exactly what we're doing with this, because the placement is all relative to how the hair naturally falls. And since the hair falls down to the sides, that's what makes this technique a vertical placement. Now you can see I have just added in all of the lightener where I need it to be, and now again just turning my brush sideways and lightly grazing it towards that scalp area. I'm not puddling it right there. That's not what you want to do. I can't stress that enough. You want to make sure there's enough room for a little bit of swelling. So now I'm going to do another slice here. Now the reason why we're putting these all in individual foils is because foils are a heat conductor. This is how you're going to get that really bright effect by taking thin slices and just putting them in a foil. Now you could lay these over back to back. I probably would do that for a natural blonde, but this is really the best way for you to have the maximum amount of control for the lift that you're trying to get out of dark hair. Now there is a little trick to folding the foil, and this is something that I wanted to talk about. You'll never see me folding this foil and flattening this. I want to make sure there's space and air in here, because if I were to pinch this foil down, I'm making a hard line. And what that does is it pushes the lightener off of that area. And this is how you're going to get that spotting going on. And this is what we don't want. So make sure that when you are folding your foil over, you're leaving enough space in there to allow it to process. So now I'm just going to add in one more because I want to keep that uniformity from that front chunk right there. Just going to add in one more little slice. So I'm going to stop right here with my chunky highlights because as you can see, we're right at this top of this head. And when I let down this hair, I like to visualize exactly how the hair is going to fall. And I can see that if I went further back right here, what's going to happen is I'm going to hit that little apex area of the head, and if I were to put a chunk right there, it kind of would look a little weird. So what I'm going to do from here is go through and add in a partial chunky highlight, a true chunky highlight throughout. But if you want to see the full version of how I add in the rest of these highlights as well as the toning and all of the details with it, you're going to want to check out Hair B&B University, where I teach hairstylists how to become confident behind the chair. There's a bunch of videos built inside, as well as group coaching and a vibrant community built inside. So if you want to learn more about it, head to the description down below at hairbnbuniversity.com. Let's take a little peek at these foils to make sure that they're ready to wash out. So it's been about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna take this hair and push this back first. And let's take a little peek. And this is actually looking really great. We got a nice lift there. So I wanted to show you how even of a lift we got because of the application that we had going on. So this looks like a nice, probably I would say a level 8 here. We got a really great lift from this. I'm really happy. So now let's go ahead and get ready to shampoo this out. Now that I have it all washed out, I wanted to show you exactly this raw lift that we got. The lift is amazing, and you can really see that chunky placement that we created. We got that bold ribbon right here in the front. We got that negative space going on to create that contrast, and then we have one more ribbon. Now something to note is, again, if you wanted something a little bit more narrower of a ribbon or of a chunk, you're just going to take less slices, or if you wanted a little thicker, you're going to take more slices. So these were 3 slices back to back, and that's how much of a bold statement we were able to make. Now you do have the option of taking this back to a 3rd chunk. The only reason why I opted out of that is just because, again, the placement of how this hair is falling, I just didn't want it to veil in the back and give me this weird type of look. But if that's something that you are desiring, definitely you can add in a chunk. Another really great tip too is you can alternate how many slices you do inside of your chunk. So if you wanted something a little more thinner on the front, but maybe more bolder in the center, you would just, again, take less slices in that front piece, but then maybe do more slices in the back. So definitely intermix it and get that inspiration from photos, and just overall, it's all about what your client is desiring and what they're wanting out of the look. But this is the end result from just 3 back-to-back slices. Now that I've identified she is an 8, 8.5, I want to go in with some Shades EQ. Now, I actually haven't tried this color just yet, but it definitely intrigues me because it's on the pink family and I love blushy tones. So what I'm going to be using is a 9 GRO and a little bit of the 7 GRO. Now that she's all done, I'm really obsessed with this look. I think this is a total throwback to late 90s, early 2000s. I just love the high contrast that we got and the bold dimension with this face frame here, and then just keeping that underside with lots of depth. But I absolutely also love this really soft, subtle, chunky type of look that we got here in the back as well. We got some bold ribbons going on, but it's soft and subtle because we flat ironed it. And when you go and curl it, it gives a totally different look. Now, again, you can totally customize where the placement is for these chunky weaves that you created or these slices that you created. So if you wanted to add more or less, make them thicker or thinner, the choice is completely yours. Now, something to note that I wanted to show you, if I were to add another highlight right there, that curvature line or where the cowlick is sitting, this is kind of what we would get. We would see a lot of this kind of combed back, and it will give you more of that ribbon effect throughout the back. Now, this is where I'm talking about that if they have a lot of layers going on, we're going to create that stopping point right here, and that's not what we want to do. So you want to be really cautious of the placement of those slices towards the back. Not to mention, if the hair is curving right at the top, you will also get this type of effect as well. You'll see it kind of fanning out. So depending on whether your client likes that or not will determine where exactly you place that. So that's exactly why I left a little bit more depth towards the back on this mannequin, because she is kind of shaped a little differently. Her hair starts to curve right here, and I just didn't want to create that stopping point in the back, which is why I opted in for the chunky weaves instead to create something a little bit more soft. So I really hope you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, share this video with a friend, and if you want more free education but sent right to your inbox, be sure to head on over to MirellaManelli.com to sign up for my newsletter. Plus, there's tons of more free education built right inside my website, plus all of the ways that you can work with me, especially with Hair B&B University, which is where confidence behind the chair starts right here. It's an online subscription-based platform built specifically for hairstylists just like you, and I can't wait for you to experience it. So all you have to do to sign up is head on over to HairBnBUniversity.com. And like always, thank you so much for sticking with me to the very end. And if you have any suggestions for any type of videos you would like to see, please jot them down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.